It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine indeed. We're back once again for your weekly recap of everything Star Wars. And this week, what we're going to be talking about. First up, we're going to be talking Damon Lindelof, reported to be developing a Star Wars movie. Great Scott indeed. Christopher Lloyd is joining the cast of The Mandalorian. John Korty, the director of Caravan of Courage, passed away. We'll be reflecting back on that movie. Fantatrax had the exclusive first reveal of the Black Series Fixer figure as part of fan celebration from Hasbro. We'll be checking that out, as well as all the other fan celebration reveals. And Gentle Giant had some new minibus statues and jumbo figures out. We'll have a little look at them. And last but not least, Star Wars Fan Fun Day is on the horizon, and we'll be talking all about that, finding out everything about that day. So joining me this week, Neil and Paul from Star Wars Fan Fun Day. How are you guys?
Good, thanks. Very good, mate. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much. Great to have you here. First guest on the show that not from the Fantatrax team, so you're in the record books.
We're very honoured.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So let's get straight into the news before we talk about Fan Fun Day. So first up, Damon Lindelof. Reported to be developing a Star Wars movie. That news broke on the 15th this week. Bit of surprising news because he's spoken about Star Wars in the past. You know, he's obviously a big fan, but he kind of suggested it wasn't something that he was going to do. Neil, what's your thoughts on him getting involved in the Star Wars galaxy?
I think I was as surprised as you were. I know him perhaps a little bit better for his comic book writing. He's done some Wolverine stuff, if memory serves me right, for Marvel, and he's written Batman for DC. And I think he was the showrunner for Lost or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I saw of his most recently was the Watchmen TV series, which I absolutely loved. But I'm not sure, perhaps you can tell me, has he ever directed a movie before?
He's probably better known for the writing side of things, I would suggest.
Yeah. He did not do screenwrite, do Star Trek.
He did Star Trek. You know, he's worked a lot with J.J. Abrams. Obviously, Lost was an Abrams project, and you know, he's been involved in a lot of TV, not so much movies. So I do wonder if, you know, they're talking about this being a Star Wars movie. Could he in fact be working on a Star Wars TV show? You know, there's that possibility, I think.
Well, there's enough of them, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot on the go, that's for sure. When he spoke about Star Wars in the past, he spoke about wanting to get involved in Marvel Star Wars at some point in it, wanting to be more involved in something a little bit more experimental. Paul, your kind of thoughts on that? Do you want classic Star Wars TV and films, or is it something, do you think it warrants something a little bit more experimental?
I don't mind experimental as long as it's good.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, for me, it's got to be good.
Yeah. I think, like, he spoke about the prequels as well in the past. I picked out a quote from back in 2011 for the article on Panther Tracks, and he kind of spoke about how, you know, the movies need to be their own thing. You know, they shouldn't just be, you know, trying to follow what's been there before. They need to have their own identity. So maybe when he talks about experimental, that's something that's more his liking. Based on what you've seen of his work before, Neil, or the comic side of things, is it a writer you'd like to see involved in Star Wars?
I think so. I'm very interested to know where Star Wars is going to go next.
Yeah.
Generally, all these TV shows, all well and good. Mandalorian just grew and grew, phenomenal. Boba Fett, I wasn't such a big fan, but I'm not going to knock it or anything because I'm just glad that there's content coming out. But I think it's time for a movie now.
Yeah.
And if the Skywalker saga is genuinely over, it will be interesting to see where Star Wars goes next. And if he's going to do something experimental, it might just be the time for that.
Yeah. I guess my biggest criticism is like, what direction are we heading and what's the end goal? You know, you look at what Marvel are doing and there's a continual kind of story and they're moving in a certain kind of direction, branching off and doing their own kind of different things. Star Wars maybe needs that little bit of someone at the head of the company really directing the storyline, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Because it is all over the place at the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, me and Neil have had this discussion. It's all right bringing content out, but it's got to be good. Mandalorian was great. Loved it.
Paul Bateman saying there, well, hopefully we'll get news on the movie front soon. Obviously, celebrations on the horizon. It seems a good juncture for them to drop something. And there's been a lot of people connected with Star Wars films and not much apparently happening in terms of moving them forward. So maybe there'll be some news on the horizon. Something a little bit more concrete. Christopher Lloyd's joining the cast of The Mandalorian Season 3, which is obviously filming at the moment. And guest role.
I can see him in it.
Yeah.
I can see him being something like, what was she called? Amy Sedaris. That type of wacky character. I can just see him in that.
Yeah. Neil, what's your thoughts on Christopher Lloyd joining the franchise?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to know more. I'd like to know, obviously, what part he's playing. I saw on one of the fan forums that somebody said that they heard from a friend of a friend and all that good stuff, that he's going to be a clone Doctor.
Yeah, there seems to be this big sort of direction that the Mandalorian's heading in, a lot more to do with clones. I've heard that rumour. The other rumour was that he'd be playing Joris C'baoth from the Thrawn novels. Obviously, everyone's kind of suggesting that Thrawn himself's going to appear in the Ahsoka series, so maybe there's some kind of crossover there. But I think people are maybe making that connection just because of his appearance.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I think he kind of fits what the Mandalorians had in the past, and that they've always had kind of the comedy kind of cameos. So it kind of makes sense. He's a great comedy actor.
Yeah.
What's his own price double?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Paul. I think he'd be great as the kind of wacky engineer type character as well.
Paul Naylor there with Christopher Lloyd will be the Mandalorian. Terrible
That's
joke.
Good. That's good. Wow.
There wasn't much substance to the Hollywood Reporter's article beyond the fact he's been cast. Not confirmed officially yet, but everybody seems to be taking it as gospel. So we'll run with it. There's happening. Hopefully we'll get some announcements on that front soon as well, because I think they must be approaching towards the end of filming the season 3 as well, because it's been going for quite some time. Next news item, sad news. We learnt this week that John Korty, who directed Caravan of Courage, passed away. An absolute legend in film. Big inspiration to George Lucas early in his career, because it was he formed his own sort of independent studio in Hollywood, Korty Films, and that kind of was what inspired George Lucas to go his own way with Lucasfilm. So as well as a connection to the Ewok movies, he's had a huge influence on George in terms of his career. And obviously he did Lucasfilm's Twice Upon a Time as well. Do you guys fond memories from your youth, the Ewok movies?
You can never have enough Ewoks for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't a youth when this came out, so I was a kind of in-betweener, if you like. But no, I guess I was an adult. I was, early 20s, I think. Yes, I a lot of fond memories. It's not my favourite of the two Ewok films. I think the Battle for Endor is better. But you wouldn't have the Battle for Endor if you didn't have that one to set it up. Caravan of Courage is a great little movie in its own right. It I think I'm right in saying it was a TV movie in the United States.
Yeah.
And got a cinematic release in the UK. Is it one of the best movies ever made? No, but it's an enjoyable romp.
It's Star Wars.
Yeah, I think so. I thought when I was prepping for this show and I knew you were coming on, Paul, I kind of thought back that you got a whole bunch of Ewoks together not that long ago.
For 21, I think.
Yeah, for a signing, which was pretty incredible, and that I kind of had remembered.
Unfortunately, we lost Malcolm Dixon.
Yeah, very sad. And it's and that kind of spunk in my mind. I was prepping for the show because it's so many of these guys that they've made like Caravan and Courage and the other Ewoks movies as well, the cartoons and all that. Everyone's kind of got like fond little memories of their childhood with that, as well as the Star Wars movies. And as much as these don't get maybe a lot of publicity still, there's a lot of people that will remember them, I think, from going to the cinema with their family and so on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think I went to cinema to watch them. I think I've missed them then. But they're good little movies.
Yeah.
No, they're not outstanding, but they're good little movies. They're good fun, which I think that's what they are.
It was certainly a joyous thing when they came onto Disney Plus.
Yeah, definitely. And they've got a whole new audience there as well.
Yeah.
Moving on, Father Tracks were lucky enough to have a reveal from Hasbro this week in their latest Black Series Gaming Greats. Character of Fixer was the reveal that we had here. Coming out in spring, priced $27.99. Spring next year, I should say. I kind of like the figure. You guys are obviously big into your toys. You've got your YouTube show as well. What did you think, Fixer?
To be honest, I haven't seen it. I've missed that one.
Well, isn't it? I mean, if you watch Beer Toys and Banter, you'll know my thoughts about Hasbro. When they get it right, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And when they get it wrong, it's a joke. And I understand that Hasbro is a business, but there's just too many repacks, repaints, and tiny kit bash things, you know, where they make a small change to a figure and put it out as another figure. And I've not looked at this too closely, but I'm sure it's just a repaint, or maybe, you know, there's a couple of extra pieces added to it or something.
Yeah.
Of one of the commandos that has been out before.
Yeah, I think there's some criticism as well that some of his armour's missing as well. So I think that was an issue. I think that a lot of people brought up in the forums.
Okay.
I'll bring up what other sites had as well. We had the Gunner figure that goes into the vintage collection coming out this fall.
Do we know if that's a repack or a new sculpt or?
I think it's a new sculpt, isn't it?
They're saying it's inspired by the 96 figures, so it should be a new sculpt. But it's going to be an exclusive to Walmart, so if you're collecting that in the UK, it becomes problematic, I think.
So it'll be everywhere then.
Yeah, the next one as well, Battalion Trooper, GameStop exclusive to America. So try your local comic shop in this country as well. Again, that to me kind of looks like a repaint. Crispy there telling me this in the comments that re-release from 2019. So that'll be the explanation.
Yeah.
Paul Naylor making the comment he's still reeling from the Black Chrysanthemum repainted Chewie that was announced last week. I think a lot of people still have issues with that one.
Shocking.
We've got in the vintage collection as well an R2D2. Not much we can say in that. You know, it's going to be exclusive to Walmart in America as well.
This is the one with the pop-up lightsaber, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a thing that I understand here. They're trying to do the 96. So the ones that they haven't already done in the vintage collection.
Yeah.
They're trying to fill out the 96 because I do kind of understand that if you're a carded collector, which I'm not, by the way, but if you're a carded collector and you've got the 96 and then you get the 96 again from the vintage collection and display them side by side, I think that would be an amazing display and a lovely collection. However, even down to terminology, new figures are called vintage. Now, vintage is what I call the 78 to 86 figures or whatever the years are. And the old looking figures, whether the figures that have already been out before in what I call vintage, or new figures like from the Mandalorian made to look like old figures, they're now called retro. So even the terminology in collecting is confusing these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next up, Bespin Guard. Again, it's going to be another Walmart exclusive. And we also had in the vintage collection a 3 3/4 inch Stormtrooper. Going back to what you were saying about repaints and so on, you know, how many Stormtroopers are there out there that you can possibly have? And
it's just one of them. I just want them to release new figures.
Yeah.
I want them to release figures I haven't got.
Yeah.
I want them to release Tanika sisters and Claire Glories and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing, not another Stormtrooper.
Yeah. And then here's your other Bespin Security Guard as well. Again, fitting into the 96 vintage collection.
Yeah, I quite like them, and they look like new sculpts. I don't know if they are or not. But yeah, you said it, Brian. They're fitting them into the 96, and I'll be glad when they finish that. And as Paul says, let's have some new figures.
Yeah. And of course, that we'll end it up back with the fixer that we had on Factor Tracks. I think, you know, everyone's kind of frustrated a little bit with Hasbro. You know, as you said, at the moment, there doesn't seem to be enough communication between Lucasfilm and Hasbro to allow them to have products that release at the time that the content's coming out. So, you know, we don't have much in the way of Boba Fett stuff out there. We've got Obi-Wan on the horizon, but we don't have anything Obi-Wan related coming out.
What about Rise of Skywalker? How many of them are missing?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Essentially, you get to a point in the window where the film's come and gone that your opportunity to sell toys, particularly related to it, to the mass market rather than the collectors, has disappeared.
But the thing is, collecting has changed and toy purchases have changed, and Hasbro is saying that the mommy purchase of Star Wars figures has just gone down and down and down and down, and most of their output is for the collector. Well, if it's for the collectors, listen to the collectors, and, you know, let's have some figures. Like Paul says, I think they did something like 6 vintage collection figures from Rise of Skywalker. As he said, you know, what about the figures we don't have? Where's Hermione Bagworth? Where's Clea Glars? She's quite an important character in the saga. Where are the Tanika sisters?
Where are the Knights of Ren?
Yeah, where are the other? You know, instead of this
and the Knights of Ren,
Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Do all 7 of them and name them.
And you think if you look at the designer, just go on the Knights of Ren, just look at them and the design of the characters on that. What fantastic figures you could have.
Yeah.
You know, and they've just missed it completely. Yeah,
they seem to be able to touch with collectors, but also I think there's another side that we need to mention, that because there's nothing else, and I know me and Paul are guilty of this, because there's nothing else coming out, we buy what they are putting out, and so they're thinking, well, these things are selling, so we've done it right, we've made the right decision. What we have to do as collectors is say, no, I'm not buying another Stormtrooper, I'm not buying another Luke Skywalker. We've got to vote with our wallets.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I collect the comics and the books, but you've got to put the money down to buy the comic or the book before you know it's any good. So by that point, your ability to convey whether something's great, bad, or indifferent, it's kind of gone. So you've kind of got to find other channels to communicate that back to Hasbro. And, you know, I think they need to work on listening. I think Lucasfilm needs to work on working with them as a partner, because all very well taking the money for the license, but is that money going to be there the next time round if the sales are poor, because the products aren't what people are wanting? And it's got to tie up with what you're releasing, your content-wise, better than it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's almost like, you know, the saying, there was a lot more snow when I was a boy. But if you think back to the Legacy collection, the Saga collection, 3.75 figures I'm talking about now, and the 30th anniversary, I mean, that's 20 years ago almost now. But you would go into a supermarket, never mind a toy shop, or a comic shop, or a specialist retailer. You would go into a supermarket and they would have 30 different figures on the shelf. And now you can go into Smith's or somewhere like that, the Entertainer or whatever, and they've got like 4.
Yeah, well, it's like when we used to go to Force Friday, and used to stay outside Toys R Us, and you went in, and you'd buy the full wave. You'd spend £100 everybody would. You'd buy the full wave. Great. You just can't do it now.
No.
And it's like I said before, is do you buy figures at £14-15 now? Or do you wait until they're reduced? Because they all get reduced.
Yeah. And like all that figures we've kind of just run through, effectively they're all spring 2023. So it's a year away before you've got them in your hands.
Yeah.
You're going to have Obi-Wan, Andor, Ahsoka, Droid Tales, Bad Batch, all released by then. And that's the characters people are going to be wanting to have action figures for. And you've got to wait a year to get these guys here. And it's
picking up on your comments about, you put your money down before you get to see the content. It's moving that way with toys now, because whilst there are still some things in the shops, a lot of what we're being asked to do is to pre-order. So we pre-order through our supplier or direct with Hasbro Pulse. And whilst you may have seen a photograph of it, and even then it's not necessarily a finished item, it could be a pre-production photograph, and you're being asked to pre-order them and not get them for months and months and months.
Yeah, I kind of hope that the last experience with HasLab changes some things. Obviously the Rancor fell through, and then just a few weeks later you've got the Rancor and a major feature in the Boba Fett show.
Yeah,
and you just think, if it had been 2 months later, if there had been some coordination between Lucasfilm and Hasbro, and that Rancor was sold with Boba Fett, or the Mandalorian rather, figures instead of the figures that they proposed, it would have easily met its target, I think.
I'm sure that there's a definite thing about what you've just said about the Hasbro and Lucasfilm working together. There needs to be some collaboration. But Hasbro made an absolute hash of that HasLab thing with the Rancor. They tried, first of all, let's go back even further. Poor old Patrick gave it away, didn't he, at one of the fan Q&As. He said something like, I think the question from the fan was, will we be able to get it in Europe? And he said, yes, we managed to get the sail barge out in Europe, and we managed to get the Razor Crest out in Europe, and we'll get the Rancor. Oh, so whatever the next one is.
Yeah.
And so he took away the big reveal with that gaff. But then when they actually revealed it, they said, we've got these stretch goals like they normally do. But all the stretch goals were just repacked figures that had been out before. Luke Jedi, Gamorrean God. Yes, I understand that they're in the scene with the Rancor, but everybody was thinking, where's the Rancor keeper?
Yeah.
You can't have a Rancor without a Rancor keeper. And then there were a few bones and a cardboard backdrop. Well, okay. But then, right at the end, with, days, literally just days to go, they said, oh, okay, we've listened to you. We'll throw in a Rancor keeper. But no photographs, no pictures, no mock-ups, nothing. They really did make a hash of that. And I'm with you, Brian. I hope that they have learnt from it, and put some real thought into the next one.
Yeah.
But also, as well as everything you said, which I totally agree with, they hadn't even delivered the Razor Crest.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and that was delayed and delayed and delayed.
Yeah, so they wanted X amount of £100 for the Rancor, but they hadn't got the Razor Crest.
Yeah.
So I certainly weren't going to buy one.
If you're dealing with a company Hasbro's size, when it comes to the crowdfunding projects, you can't have the experience that people often have in things like Kickstarters, where the product doesn't arrive until a year after the promised date. And I'm not saying it was that bad with the HasLab, but you can't have that delays on a crowdfunded product, I don't think, if you're a company the size of Hasbro.
No.
And you can't announce the next one before you've delivered that one.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, having dealt with Hasbro, let's move on to something far more positive. And your guys, Star Wars Fun Day, arriving back Sunday the 8th of May, this time in Blackburn. Tell us a little bit about the history of Fun Day to start with.
Okay. It all started when my first celebration was Celebration London, the first one. And I went to that, and I had never been to a convention before. And I was walking up to the XL, and there was a guy with the retro T-shirt on with R2 and 3PO in the racetracks on the Star Wars logo. And as he walked past some of the, I'm assuming 501st or, whichever costuming group, one of the Stormtroopers said, "How long have you had those droids?" And the guy instantly said, 2 or 3 seasons. They're for sale if you want them. And I just thought, I've died and gone to Star Wars heaven. This is like-minded people. These people like the same stuff that I like. And I hadn't even walked through the door at that point. So you can imagine how I felt when I eventually walked through the door, and then after, the whole experience, left and came out the door. And I thought, there's nothing like that up north. I need to do something like that. I've got to do something for the folks up north who are Star Wars fans, because there's got to be like-minded people up north. And so the first one was at a place called Clayton Park Conference Centre. And looking back on it was rubbish, really. We had one guest, it was Kenny Baker. We had some stalls and we had some games, but it was the start of something. And what I did realise straight away from that first one is we outgrew this little venue that we'd chosen. So I went along to Blackburn Rovers, and at the time it was a different company was handling all hospitality for Blackburn, and the prices were astronomical, and I just thought we'd never make it back on the door. It's a little fan show by Star Wars fans for Star Wars fans, and these people want ridiculous amounts of money for the room hire, for the venue hire. So, to cut a very long story short, I looked at lots and lots of places, and I ended up going to Burnley, who really, really wanted the gig there. They fell over themselves. They couldn't do enough for us to get the gig at Burnley. And the big room that we've had for the last 14 years, although 2 of those we didn't do a show because of COVID, it petitioned down the centre. So we had half of that room for the first one at Burnley. We had 4 guests, and lots and lots more people turned up than at Clayton Conference Centre. So at the time, there was a chap called Paul Eek who was helping out, fellow Star Wars fan. And me and him had this tough decision to make for the next one, whether we took this petition down and used the whole room, which we did, and we filled that, and we got more guests, and it's just grown and grown and grown and grown over the years. Paul got involved. You tell me, Donny. Was it something like the fourth one or something?
Yeah, I think fourth one.
Paul's been to every one of them. He went to the first few as a punter, and you know, expressed an interest to help out, and just took a small role at the beginning, and a bigger role, and a bigger role, until, you know, I couldn't do it without him. Now it's a 50-50 thing. We do it between us.
And yeah, so this year we're moving from Burnley to Blackburn. What benefits are we going to get to see this year from the Blackburn site?
Well, we wanted a play. One of the things that a lot of people talk about the Burnley show, as they call it, or the Star Wars Fan Fun Day, or the SWFFD, is that it's a friendly, relaxed, intimate show in decent surroundings. It's not like a sports hall or you know, some kind of great big exhibition centre. It's a carpeted, wallpapered, lovely venue. Now, when Burnley got new owners, they decided to change that big long room that we used there into several corporate boxes, and then a bar, very plushly decorated and furnished, which is lovely and gets them a lot of revenue on match days, which is what they're all about. And so I understand that. But unfortunately, it's not big enough anymore to house the Star Wars Fan Fun Day. And we looked around and we thought about, you know, we could hire a sports hall. There were some places that were big enough. Burnley have actually got an elite training centre, which they offered us. And Dunny said, why don't you go and see Blackburn Rovers? And I said, man, that's just so expensive. That's where I went, blah, blah, blah. And he said, look, I'd really, really appreciate it if we got an appointment there and went to see them, just to discount it. If they are still as expensive as you say, then we can just discount it, carry on looking. And when we got there, completely new company have taken over, Sodexo, really, really enthusiastic guy who's the business development manager there for Sodexo, Blackburn Rovers. It's called the Ewood Experience now, the corporate hospitality side, and they've got some things already booked in. They've got you know, a couple of music festivals in the summer and things like that. And it was just like going to Burnley all those years ago. He fell over himself to get the gig. He said, he actually looked us in the eyes and said, I want this gig here. What do I have to do? And so we sat round the table and we explained to him, you know, what had happened the last time we went there to get prices. And he just said, they've gone now. Tell me what I need to do. If I can do it, I'll do it. And, you know, we've worked with each other where he said, look, I just can't do this at this price. We said, right, we understand. Dad'll have to have a you know, small increase. You know, the cost of the dinner or whatever, and the room hire, we figured, you know, and we got a great deal. And more importantly to me and Dunny, we're working with somebody who's unbelievably uber excited about having the event at his venue. In fact, you know, Dunny and I, when we came out, said we need to go and lie down for a bit now because he's that enthusiastic. He tires you out. But that's a definite positive thing. So I've gone a long way around, Brian, to answer your question. We've got the same intimate, friendly, relaxed atmosphere, wallpapered, carpeted suite. But instead of being a long, thin room, it's a better-shaped, rectangular room. So it'll be a different kind of experience because, it'll be a different layout to what you know from Burnley, but with all the same elements that everybody enjoys.
And it's still looking over the pitch.
Yeah.
Paul Dunn there just saying it's his favourite Star Wars event. Obviously, there's the dinner on the Saturday the 7th, which is always great fun, relaxed dinner. You're going to have one of the Star Wars guests at your table. Always a great meal, great entertainment, great night. Then the main event on the Sunday from 10:30 to 4:30. Tickets all up on your website, swffd.co.uk. Still a few VIP tickets as well. I'm going VIP this year. Looking forward to it. It's one of my favourite events as well. And
well, here's an exclusive for you that even Dunny doesn't know. VIP tickets have sold out.
Ah, brilliant.
Nice.
VIP tickets have sold out. The dinner, there are 6 tickets left for dinner with the Star Wars stars. So there are 6 of those left. VIPs have sold out. There's still plenty of standard tickets available. And Warwick Davis photo shoots are selling like hotcakes. They're not anywhere near selling out yet, but they are selling really, really fast. And I would expect them to sell out.
Yeah. One of the things I always love about the show as well is like the merch that you do, little Star Wars Fun Day. There's patches, there's a Grogu pin as well, which I think I'll go down brilliantly. You can buy all them with your tickets as well. So I was going to go through the guests with you because we've got a whole host of great guests. First up, Quentin Pierce. Quentin
Pierce.
Yep. He's not a guy I have met before, which is always the great things about Fun Day is, Paul, you always manage to get guests that are pretty unique, that you don't often see, or when you do see, they don't get necessarily the attention they should. Guys with their own unique stories as well.
Unfortunately, I can't take the credit for this one because this one's Neil's.
Was it?
Paul and I are fiercely competitive when it comes to getting the guests. And I have to say, and I have to hold my hand up, that most years Dunny wins hands down. Dunny gets more guests for this show than I do. But currently, and I say currently because we haven't announced all our guests yet, I'm winning this year. But the thing about Quentin Pierce is that he's one that Dunny has always wanted, and he keeps saying, I want Quentin Pierce. I want Quentin, a bit like me with Warwick Davis. And so I've got the one that Dunny's always wanted and managed to get him to sign. And Dunny's got the one that I've always wanted to try and get. So we're equal on that score. But Quentin Pierce is a really good one because not only is he one of the Bespin security guards, but he's also an Emperor's Royal Guard, and we've never had an Emperor's Royal Guard at the Star Wars Fan Fun Day. And I believe Paul's the better one to tell you, but I believe he's done some other parts as well, Stormtrooper or whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, Mark Lewis Jones. Another aspect I love about your shows is that it doesn't focus on just one era. So you've got classic, you've got the prequels, you've got the sequels as well.
We try to get somebody from as many different genres or types of programs, films, animation, prequels, sequels. Yeah. So we try and have somebody from everywhere.
And I think that's what helps make it such a family show as well, because the kids might be more familiar with the characters and the actors from the more recent content, where the parents are going to know the characters from the older films as well. So there's that little bit of excitement that everybody's going to recognise someone there.
Yeah,
And Mark's such just an awesome guy.
Yeah,
he really is, and he's really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very, very pleased with that signing. And that's one of Dunny invited Mark, and Mark said yes. So all credit to Dunny for bringing Mark on board. But just to pick up on something you were saying there, Brian, I'm going to tell you something that Dunny's sick of hearing. My son Ben is sick of hearing, and Doug Cook, who helps out, is sick of hearing. We have this mantra: we've got to have the right guests. So as you rightly point out, they've got to be from across all the different eras. So you've got to have prequels, sequels, original trilogy, animation and TV shows. Now, we've got animation by default because that was the one we were really struggling with this year. In the past, we've had Taylor Gray and people like that, Julie Dolan. But we've got Warwick, who actually voices a character in Rebels. And then you've also, so that's the actors. Moving on, you've also got to have some of the best costumers, because if you point to Warwick and say that's Wicket to a child, he'll go, no, it's not. It's some middle-aged guy. But if you point to a costumer dressed as an Ewok, then that is an Ewok to a child. So you've got to have some of the best costuming groups involved. Not only white armor, as impressive as white armor is, you've got to have, other characters that people will want, that the kids will want to get the photographs with. Also within, and you've mentioned this, Brian, that also within your guest list, you've got to have people that the graphers are looking to get, not the casual sort of Star Wars fans. The hardcore graphers will have Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Mark Lewis Jones, blah 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 blah. So you need some of these minor characters, or even behind the scenes people. So you've got to find people for the graphers to want to come to the show. And then for the toy collectors, you've got to have the best vendors. So you've got to have some of the people that have got vintage toys, modern toys, and all that good stuff. And it's all these things so that we cater for all aspects of Star Wars fandom. And it's a really important part to the show that I kind of ram down everybody who gets involved in helping us. I ram it down the throats every year, and they're sick to death of hearing it.
Yeah. Next up, Lewis Mcleod, guy I know well. I've interviewed him at conventions in the past. Did one in Edinburgh literally just before lockdown, and we forgot there was an audience there. We just started ending up just having a chat about Star Wars, which was fantastic. And so I encourage anyone at the show, go and see Lewis. He'll tell you some brilliant stories about working with George Lucas and going for lunch with George.
The funniest guest we've ever had.
Yeah.
I remember when he turned up last year, and last time he came to the hotel, he just had me and Neil and Dave over in stitches.
Yes. I guess what you guys won't get, but he was involved in like a BBC Scotland radio football sort of comedy show for a long time. He used to do all the voices for all the different sports personalities up here. So huge background in comedy as well. Brilliant guy.
Yeah.
Adam J. Smith, and this is what I was saying earlier, guys that I've never met. So delighted get a chance to meet him as well. Alan Rusko, brilliant again, and again talking about doing so many different characters, and encourage anyone there with a family to ask him about what's involved in the makeup and the costumes that he's involved in getting into. Else we got Dean Mitchell, and then another one on my list, and I just we were talking about the graphers, people that meeting guys I haven't seen before, so another one that I'll be looking to get as well at the show. Up next, Paul Blake, everyone knows as Greedo. Brilliant. Another fantastic, entertaining guy.
Lovely guy.
Really is.
Jack Claff. Again, this is going back in time to the original trilogy as well. Guys will look forward to hearing his stories.
Yeah, I can't remember where I met Jack last. It's a while ago. Nick Kellington's one I've been wanting for. He just plays so many characters.
Yeah. Harrison Davies as well.
Yeah.
And that's from, is it Revenge of the Sith?
No, it's from Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, sorry. And always good fan. Annabelle as well. I don't think people quite realise just quite how involved she was in terms of to do with the puppeteering as well. And she did a whole host of different characters over a number of the most recent films as well. And obviously the most recent announcement, Warwick, which I think every Star Wars fan will always want to get a chance to stop and speak to Warwick as well.
And he's such a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Every time I've met him, he's he loves it. He's a true ambassador for Star Wars. Yeah. He absolutely loves it. He loves his fans. He's not anything he shouldn't be. He's great. Such a great guy.
Yeah, and I'm delighted that Willie will be coming back to TV screens hopefully this year. I'm not entirely sure when it's due to hit Disney Plus, but for a lot of people, Willow was one of those classic films again from their childhood, and see it coming back, and they've got a pretty phenomenal young cast as well.
Yeah.
On the show with them as well. So,
and Warwick's bringing his signature shop as well.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant.
Which will be run by Raymond Griffiths, who is a gonk droid.
Oh, brilliant. It's coming up to close to the end of the show, but also wanted to give a shout out as well for you guys for your YouTube show as well. You do Beers, Toys and Banter on YouTube. Tell us a little bit about the channel.
Well, it's two of our favourite things, beer and toys. We always banter when we're talking about them, so it just seemed ideal to put all three together.
Yeah, definitely. And I was watching, as I said earlier, just before we started the show, I was watching your episode with the Razor Crest as well, right, which we mentioned earlier in the show. Everyone can go and check that out as well. Delighted to finally have it in your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No idea where I'm going to put it, but it's great.
It's. I wasn't as excited as I was for the sail barge, for the katana, but it's an amazing piece of kit. It's really, really good. I'm interested to see where they go next, as we've already said with the HasLab things. But the two 3.75 things that they have brought out are amazing pieces.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up the show, anything else on Star Wars Fan Fun Day that we haven't covered that we should let the viewers know?
Just to say that we haven't finished our guest list yet. We've got 4 guests to announce. We are waiting for a couple of contracts to come back. Fingers crossed, we should have them all announced by the end of this week. But of course, we're reliant on actors and, in a couple of instances, their agents to get the things back to us. But if we get them back, we'll announce the last 4 guests. And then the guest list is complete, and Paul and myself can focus on the important job of promoting the show. We do it digitally because, we live in 2022, but we also put on our walking boots and we go out sticking flyers in chip shops and toy shops and comic shops, and we've got to drum up the interest and get people through the door.
Absolutely. And Paul, of the guests still to come, don't want to know the names because we look forward to the surprises, but lots of excitement still to come. Variety of guests still on the horizon for us.
Very exciting guests to announce. I'm really excited about the lineup for this year.
Brilliant. I can't wait for the show. Absolutely looking forward to it. Try and get down, if not every year, but every other second year. Looking forward to the dinner as well. Catching up with the rest of Star Wars fandom. Panther Tracks guys that I don't see often enough as well. So can't wait. And it'll be a new adventure for me to try and find Blackburn. Because it's normally me getting lost on the way to Burnley. And so looking forward to that. Appreciate you guys coming on the show, telling us all about Star Wars Fun Day. Everyone,
it's been a blast.
Yeah, everyone, give them a follow on Facebook, Twitter. You'll get the announcements there, and if you don't see it on there, Panther Tracks will get it up on our site as soon as we find out who's coming next. So
follow us and subscribe to Bay Toys and Banter. We only need 700 more subscribers.
Keep going. I enjoy the shows. Everyone else, check that out. And we'll be back next week for another episode. Good morning, Tatooine. So thanks once again, Paul, Neil, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.